Recording. Helo, croeso, prynhawn dda. Dyma fi yn ceisio wneud gweithdy byr ar gyfer Ceredigion, amgueddfa Ceredigion. Here we are, I'm going to attempt to do a complicated short workshop for Ceredigion Museum using all sorts of peculiar things, such as a selfie stick, a tin of beans, a stool, and some magnets. I hope you're getting intrigued. And we've got some beach finds here, some lollipop sticks, didn't need that. These things are all going to be employed byddai'n defnyddio'r offer yma I gyd mwyn ceisio wneud ffilm byr neu cwpl o wahanol ffilmiau byr stop motion gan defnyddio syniad o animeiddio sef stop motion. So I'm going to be using all these bits and pieces to show you a couple of different techniques that you can employ in making a stop motion film. You're probably used to stop motion if you've ever seen anything by Aardman Animation, such as Wallace and Gromit. They make stop motion films out of plasticine. And the simple idea is that you move your subject very slightly, moment by moment, and then you take a photo of each of those slight movements, and in the end you put them all together again, and it makes a slightly jerky film. So for example, if I was going to do a film just of my hand waving hello, I'd take a photo like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, and then put them all together and you would see my hand going slightly jerkily. And it's a fantastic and very easy technique that you can get very quick results with. I mean, it's slow compared to filming because it still takes all of those photos, but it's very quick compared to, for example, a cartoon drawing where you have to draw every different screen of it separately. So I've put together a couple of different things that will get very quick results. But the first thing that we need is to make ourselves an animation studio. And this is probably something that you can spend an awful lot of money on, but we're going to try and make it out of some handy household objects, none of which will be perfect, but they'll all be interesting. Byddwn ni gyd yn diddorol y syniad yma, a fydd ddim ohonyn nhw yn perffaith, ond dyma ni yn ceisio wneud pethau efo beth sydd da ni gatre. So one of the things that could be quite useful is a selfie stick, if you have such a thing. I just brought this one to show you that if you had, for example, a selfie stick in a bookshelf, you could push this in between a couple of books and get it quite sturdy, and then you would have all this ground underneath you in which you would be able to create your animation studio with your phone stuck on the end. The idea here is to be using our phones, or if you have one, a tablet, so a smartphone or a tablet that you can download an app to. And there's a couple of different apps, or quite a few different stop motion apps that you could use, both for Apple phones and tablets and for Android phones and tablets. So we're going to be concentrating on making these animations using smartphones or tablets, and that's why we need to come up with a way of balancing a smartphone or a tablet in such a way as to make a studio animeiddio. So one of the funniest ideas is if you've got a chair or a stool like this one, you don't need to be able to hang your whole tablet or your whole phone in midair. Actually, all you need is for the camera itself to be looking down into midair. So here I've got a tablet and a nice heavy tin of beans, and that would do the trick. You can actually this way see the legs a little bit, so it's up to how annoyed you are by all the different workarounds. Alternatively, you could, if you do have something like a tripod, you could use a tripod and make a more professional setup. Or if you wanted to make the animations that we'll be looking at, we're going to be doing on the flat, which is why this would work. But if you wanted to make yourself a little animation studio, this would be the simplest way of doing it. We've got a jar and a piece of blue tack and just a piece of white paper stuck to the jar, and that makes a little 3D studio here where you could animate your little subjects from the side. Dyma fe, cerrig, dwi 'di ffindio ar y traeth yn dawnsio. We're going to do them all from up top, so I shall get rid of these bits and pieces. Diolch yn fawr. Hwnna, i'r jar. And here, mae gen I box. Ac yn y box, rwyf wedi creu twll. I've made a hole. Gobeithio bod chi'n gallu weld hwnna. There's a little hole here, just cut out with a Stanley knife. Any old cardboard box would do. In fact, the taller the better. And I'm hanging my phone over it so that the camera there is over the hole. And now the camera is looking down, and in here I've put just a pad of paper which fits perfectly. And also with blue tack, a piece of paper at the back just to reflect the light around a little bit. And I've got a lamp here that I'm pointing in. Now you don't need extra light if you use something like a stool, because you'll get enough light from the natural light if you're near windows, but because this cardboard box setup makes it a little bit dark, I'm using this light separately. So there's our studio, dyna'r studio, a nawr ar gyfer y peth anodd, sef, dio ddim yn anodd o gwbl, not difficult at all. All you need to do is go to, or if you're using the phone or the tablet of a parent, ask them to go to the App Store, either in Android, which is a Play Store, or in Apple, which is the Apple Store, and you go and you search for Stopmotion, and all sorts of different things will come up. I've just downloaded two straight away. One is called Stopmotion, which is just there. The other is I Can Animate, and there'll be something similar. This is an Android phone. There'll be something similar in Apple phones as well. I've been enjoying the Stopmotion one. Actually, no, I haven't. I've been preferring the I Can Animate one. So we'll try that for now. And you can see that it gives you a little library here of the animations that you've made already, and a button. They all work in a similar way. It'll take a few minutes to get yourself used to it and to get your head around it. But this is how to start a new animation. And it says here, tap here to add some frames to your project. So frames, fframau, yw'r enw ar gyfer y wahanol llun, a be ni'n neud yw cymryd cyfres o ffotograffiau mwyn rhoi nhw gyd at ei gilydd a creu ffilm wedi ei animeiddio. So frames is what they call each photo. So one frame is one photo, and then those frames, when you see them all one after the other, that's what will make your film. So what we're going to do is start straight away to add some frames to our project. It says tap here to add some frames. And I'm going to lay this down over my little hole. A dyma ni. If you have a look at the camera, you can see that it's showing the inside of the box just here. And so this is our animation studio here, where we can start doing things. I'll start with a very simple idea, which was to get some magnetic letters. Well, these could easily be something that you could cut out of a magazine, like a hostage note, or you could even just draw your own letters on the piece of paper. I'm going to use these so that I can move them around, and because the idea of this film is to make something brief and personal that is about how you feel about the 6 months that we've had of this pandemic. So I just chose at random a couple of letters, and we'll see what they say about how I've often felt over this last 6 months. So I will start by taking a blank photo. In fact, click, click. I'll take a couple. On this app, and actually on most of them, the photo taking button is a little picture of a camera, llun bach o camera fyna. And now I'm going to lay my first letter, llythyren B, on there. If it needs to refocus, you can touch on the letter. Oops. We'll refocus the camera, it's not working very well. Oops. There we go. Now it's struggling a little bit with the light. Let's see if I can shine it down from above a little bit better. Something like Heath Robinson Animation Studio. Let's see. Oops. Let's see if I can put it up on its side. There we go, that's better. It did work before, but not so much now. Ah, there we go, at last. Now I just kept touching it until eventually it focused, and I'll take a photo again of my screen and take a couple with my B. And now I'm going to sneak in my second letter, sef llythyren O, and take another photo. A wedyn mae 'da fi you might get an idea of where I'm going with this one. Now, if I jiggle them all, even little movements are very clear to see when you look back. So I'm making them all jiggle a little bit. And then I can play back. And see that the word board appears and jumps around a little bit. Now, I'm mynd i cymryd amser I wneud ffilm hir, achos mae gymaint o fframiau ar angen hyd yn oed ar gyfer ffilm byr iawn. So you need so many frames for even a very short film. If you look back at mine that I've done so far, It's 15 frames so far, and it's probably about half a second film. So this is, once you get your studio set up, an excellent way to while away a long afternoon. And once you start using interesting things that you can find in the house, you'll find no end of bits and pieces. I particularly recommend kitchen drawers. Tools are good. You'll find all sorts of different kitchen implements have different personalities. Dyma ni, mae'r gair wedi diflannu o'r sgrin. I'll take a few blank ones and just to show that when I'm thinking in Welsh I feel a bit better. And when you get up to speed, you have to be careful that you don't get your finger or hand in the way. Llwyth arall defnyddiol o y pethau i'w defnyddio yw'r bocs teganau, yn enwedig am ryw reswm teganau ar gyfer y bath. Another really useful place to find things to use is the toy box, and for some reason especially bath toys, which are I suppose largely fish. So if they can all swim around the place in your animation, and they're all bright coloured, toys and bath toys are brilliant. So here we've got my second letter, my second word creeping up, and I'm jiggling the others around a little bit too when I remember. Dyma ni. Sometimes I'm bored, ond weithiau dwi'n hapus. You can experiment just on something very simple like this, with how moving the letters in different ways give them different characteristics. So you could shake them if you just move them very, very slightly. That makes them look as if they're shaking, as if they're cold. Or you can have them bouncing. You can make them all run away off the page, so that they look like they've got frightened. They can follow each other around. You can get such a lot of personality out of even very simple household objects. A hwnna yw'r un o'r pethau mwyaf fab am y dechnegau, and that's the most fabulous thing about this technique. So if we have a look back at that one, that's up to 82 frames I've just managed. And we've got bored a hapus. Dyma ni. So that took not very long at all to get just a silly, interesting, but quite telling about my lockdown mental state short little film. So to show another way of doing things, I've got some lollipop sticks. We'll get rid of our hapus from here. I've got a variety of different lollipop sticks that just somehow or other get left around in my kitchen, so I thought I'd have a go with these. And I'm going to make a little person, and I'm going to start by giving her a little pink face, I think. Maybe some lips. Some eyes. Na hi. Mae hwn yn diddorol achos mae fe'n rhoi cyfle i meddwl am sut mae'r corff yn symud. It gives you an opportunity to think about how the body moves, which may have bearing on your lockdown experience if you feel like your body hasn't been moving very much, or maybe you're one of the people who has been doing a lot of running or workouts or dancing or yoga in your living room, or maybe you're just somebody who's been very still, and you'll prefer to do your movement through the medium of lolly sticks. But it's interesting to look back at a stop motion animation film and see if you can actually recreate movement that makes you happy, or just look at the other people perhaps who are in your bubble, in your family, and see how they're moving. So I've got a couple of lolly sticks here. I've got one that I've already cut in half, so this could be my perhaps my upper arms. Let's see if I can I'll just grab a pair of scissors. Luckily these scissors are strong enough, but actually even just breaking them in half would have done. Cut a couple of sticks. So we'll have dau ar gyfer, pob coes, un arall mewn hanner ar gyfer y breichiau. Okay, a dyma hi. Of course you could make clothing. You could make clothing for a lolly stick person. You can make it out of fabric, or you could even animate doll's clothes if you already had. Or if you took your phone and put it over the edge of a bunk bed or something like that, imagine you'd have such a huge space, or put it in the rafters, or somehow just stuck it onto the ceiling. You could actually get people to lie on the floor. I've done that before. Lie on the floor and do stop motion with human beings. That's very good fun too. So once you start getting involved, these things can be quite addictive. So dyma ni, mae merch bach fi lolly sticks yn barod I fynd. Mae hi off y sgrin ar hyn o bryd, felly na I symud hi lan. And I'm going to discover through doing this that I don't know very much about anatomy at all. If you have more time, you can make yourself a little person with arms and legs using now what are they called? Those very useful little craft bits and pieces that you hardly ever use in ordinary life, but are incredibly useful for stop motion animation, which is where you get a pointy sort of clip that goes through a hole. You make a hole with it, and then the other side folds over into two pieces, and it makes a kind of a swivelling. I haven't got one with me to show you, but they can be really useful for making pivots for arms and legs and shoulders and animals. And you can get those in any kind of stationery shop. Now, I'm going to start her walking, because I want to see if I can actually recreate how arms and legs move when you're walking. She's very enthusiastic at the moment, so I might bring her down a bit. Ready? And another good tool is blue tack. I could have made her blue tack joints, and then she would have held together a little bit better. I think she's going to look a little bit loose. Now let's see if that's coming up with anything. Okay, she's dancing around a little bit. Now that was probably about 20 frames just of her, and you could get very, very involved if this is just with a couple of lolly sticks. If you have any toys that have articulated limbs, that's again dechnegau efo ffreichiau a coesau sy'n symud, like a Barbie doll for example. Those can be really good as well. Anything that has knees and elbows can be really good fun. Now, I think to make a point about how I've been feeling in my very small house and tŷ bach fi, even though it's a very nice house. These 6 months of pandemic have made me feel a little bit constrained. I'm sure everybody else has felt the same. And so I'm going to squeeze my poor lolly stick woman all together, and then lock her up. All of these lollies, incidentally, were eaten during lockdown. And I'd have hyfryd cynnes cafani. There we go. She's stuck in her house. Dwi wastad yn mwynhau symud y peth off the screen I gorffen. I always enjoy moving the thing right off the screen at the end, but of course you can do bored, hapus. Dyma hi yn dawnsio yn hapus, a wedyn, oh, stuck at home and gone. I've just got one last little technique to show you. I might use my little house there for this last one, which was some found objects. Luckily for me, although I did feel stuck at home during last lockdown, I do live rather close to the beach. So this is a little jar of some bits and pieces that I pulled together, and I thought it would be nice to show how, with a little bit of, I've got some old white tack here, but actually even plasticine or Play-Doh will work, or as with the lollipop woman, just laying things next to each other. I thought I would make a little creature, a little person, maybe an animal in fact. Let's have a bigger body. Let's put this creature can have some long ones for legs. Maybe this one can be a neck. Oh, that's a lovely one. Look at that. That might be too heavy. Is it? I think it's going to be okay. And perhaps a hat. There we go. And maybe some sort of tail. Now you can go crazy with stone creatures, stone monsters. And I'm going to put the creature in its little house. Where? Now this could be something that if it had another couple of legs, you could animate it standing upright and do it from this side. And I'll show you another tip for handheld animation after this, so in case your studio doesn't go too well. And here we go. This one could do some galloping. Another thing that I haven't got with me here, but that is a dream for animators, is googly eyes. Poor creature is climbing the walls. One of the things that's nicest about stop motion animation is, especially in times of lockdown when you can't easily go to shops, is to make something that is simultaneously kind of technological but also really very lo-fi, and using found objects, bits and pieces that just have been sharing your limited space with you, bringing them to life. There we go. And googly eyes, I mentioned, are really good fun things to animate with as well. You can get so much expression in some googly eyes. My idea for this was to take, maybe I'll dissect my strange little donkey in a hat and give this little stone white eyes. There's another one, here we go. And a little red nose would do the trick. Here we go. You have a little piece of sea glass as a nose, and now just that on its own could do all sorts of silly expressions. And if you use the same technique as I did with adding the house around my lollipop stick woman, you could make your little stone face say things. You can make speech bubbles or thought bubbles appear and tell us how you really feel about the pandemic and about lockdown. Thank you for bearing with me. I'll put links underneath as well as to how you can find these stop motion animation apps, and I recommend you go. Oh, I was going to show you about onion skinning. That's very important. So onion skinning, if you are going to, so all of the apps have some kind of onion skinning option, and it's on this one. It's come up just as one of the buttons with a little slide here. If you move the slider across, you can't see anything in this one because my creature had come off. But if you move the slider across, you'll be able to see that my hand there is slightly invisible, because you can see the olion a llun of line, the effects of the picture before. So I take a photo of my hand and then I move it a little bit. You can see like a ghost of where my hand was, and that shows where you want your next frame to be. That's really useful in case you accidentally nudge your subject. Right, there we are. My film, my opus. I'm sure I'll be getting an Oscar. Dyma ni. Diolch yn fawr am aros gyda fi, a gobeithio fyddech chi gyd yn ffindio lot o wahanol ffyrdd o bod yn creadigol dros yr hanner tymor yma a dros beth bynnag sy'n mynd i digwydd efo'r pandemig yna nesaf. I hope that you find a lot of creative ways to keep yourself busy this